Hello, and welcome to the March 2022 WPE workshop for the topic Time and the Mind. My name is Betsy Gomez, and I am the Assistant Director of the WPE program. I will be presenting the first part of the workshop, and Associate Director Lori Marks will be leading part 2 of the workshop. Please make sure to bookmark our website, which is www.umb.edu/WPE. Our website houses some helpful content, such as the detailed WPE portfolio requirements, grading criteria, the WPE schedule for March and June, and copies of our resources like the grid notes and these PowerPoint slides. In part 1 of the WPE workshop, we will discuss the WPE grading standards and portfolio requirements, and then we'll go over the submission process and schedule. I will also take some time to give you some advice on how to potentially write a successful essay. This should include a discussion on what kind of essay to write, how to incorporate and give credit to sources, how to make sure you are answering the question, and strategies to make sure your new essay effectively engages with the sources. It is helpful to familiarize yourself with the criteria for ERAP and WPE, which are the grading standards that will be used to grade your submission. This criteria was created by the faculty at UMass Boston some time ago and is directly related to the aims of the general education program. Keep in mind that you are not expected to write a perfect essay. You are a college student and you are still learning and growing as a thinker and as a writer. The graders expect your essay to demonstrate intermediate proficiency in writing. This means that the WPE is not a spelling or grammar exam. You will not receive a retake score only because you are missing a few commas or made a few typos on your challenge essay. So really, you shouldn't worry too much about that because you're actually being graded on whether your essay clearly answers the question, on whether you engage with and utilize your sources in a way that supports your answer to the question, and on whether your essay is organized in a clear and understandable manner. So what this means is that it is very important that you write an essay that shows your thinking and point of view. According to the general education program, writing proficiency involves critical thinking, critical reading, and elements of writing. These capabilities are demonstrated within an essay by the following criteria, which are writing with a clear purpose, effectively utilizing source material, and organization. So to continue talking about the criteria for the WPE, you might be wondering, how are essays graded? WPE challenge essays are graded on a scale of 1 to 9. Developing essays earn scores between 1 and 3. Proficient essays earn scores between 4 and 6. And exemplary essays earn scores between 7 and 9. To pass the WPE, your essay must earn a score of 4 or higher from 2 different graders. Course papers, which you are submitting along with your challenge essay, those provide a supporting role. Graders may consult them to assist with difficult decisions. For example, if your challenge essay is strong in the areas of focus and organization, but not as strong in source use, the graders may take a look at your course papers to see if they demonstrate proficient use of sources. So now we're going to talk about the grading criteria in a little bit more detail. So the first grading criteria is writing with a clear purpose. So what does it mean to write with a clear purpose? Your position, argument, or inquiry are determined by what you think, usually in response to a prompt or assignment. A proficient essay clearly states its focus and maintains that focus throughout the entire essay. A proficient essay presents a methodical, connected discussion rather than one that seems to be confusing. In your case, you're writing an essay for the March WPE, so please pay careful attention to the prompt on the first page of the reading set. The first page of the reading set includes the prompt. considering the ways that we humans experience time, what is the relevance and importance of our ability to synchronize, integrate, and reflect upon the moments of our lives? Your essay should focus on answering this prompt. So the second criteria for the writing proficiency is effectively utilizing source material. So how can you effectively utilize source material? What does that mean? Doing this involves you carefully selecting, integrating, and explaining the source material that you're using and applying it meaningfully in service of the purpose of your essay. What that means is that you should carefully choose your evidence. You should carefully choose where that evidence is most useful within your essay, and then explain the evidence in your own words and connect that evidence to your main argument. When you effectively utilize your source material, you go beyond just summarizing the ideas in the text and towards a meaningful engagement with those ideas. A proficient essay engages in conversations with sources by connecting the source's ideas to your essay's purpose and argument. It also relates the source's ideas and materials to your own ideas and makes that relevance explicit. And then a proficient essay explains and contextualizes ideas from the sources, possibly by briefly reviewing the source's argument, putting ideas into your own words, or illustrating them with fresh examples. So when we talk about source material, for the March WPE, the source material we are referring to is the reading set on Time and the Mind, which consists of 3 readings by David Eagleman, Brain Time, Ava Hoffman, Time in Our Time, and Mark Whitman, In the Moment, 3 Seconds of Presence. You're expected to use all 3 of these readings in your WPE essay. The final grading criteria is organization. What can effective organization look like in a WPE essay? Organization indicates awareness of your reader's need to be guided through the flow of your ideas. In a proficient essay, paragraphs are presented in an order that is logical to your argument, and then each paragraph signals a new idea and also explains how that new idea is related to the previous paragraph and the overall purpose of your essay. This is what you may instinctively think of as the flow of the essay. In a proficient essay, sentences use forms that express meaning to the reader, and each sentence has a meaningful connection to the other sentences in the paragraph. So everything in your paragraph and in your essay as a whole would make sense or fit in an organized essay. So you might be wondering what the portfolio requirements are like. We have modified the requirements for the spring semester. I'm just taking into account that we are still in a pandemic. So the current requirements are the new or challenge essay. So that's the essay on Time and the Mind. And that essay should be 1,500 words or longer. No exceptions. We also require 3 course papers, and those are papers that you wrote in your courses at UMass Boston. So one course paper must be 1,250 words or longer, and the other 2 course papers can be 750 words or longer. If you are a first semester transfer student, meaning you transferred in the fall 2021 or spring 2022 semester, you are allowed to submit 2 course papers. One should be 1,250 words or longer, and then the other one can be 750 words or longer. All students submitting a WPE portfolio must write a new essay. So the challenge essay on Time and the Mind, everyone signed up for the March WPE is required to write this essay, regardless of your transfer student status or your credit count or anything really. Finally, for the portfolio requirements, you will have to fill out a confirmation form when you submit your portfolio, and you will be given the link to that form closer to the submission deadline. The confirmation form includes an honesty statement and a brief survey, so if you want to give us some feedback, that's going to be the time when you can do that. Okay, so you might be wondering what kind of papers you should include in your portfolio. Each paper must be from a different UMB course if possible. You are allowed to submit 2 papers from your intermediate seminar if you took that in the past, or CRW 282. You should include at least 1 paper from a course that is a 200 level or higher. So the intermediate seminar, again, would be a 200 level course. If you took, I don't know, sociology 351, that would be a 200 level or above course. At least 1 paper should be from this type of course. Your papers should also utilize sources. So a source can be anything from a journal article, a book, lecture, or work of art, really something that you're talking about and incorporating into your essay somehow. And all papers should be analytical and present an argument. So what this means is that personal narratives and reflections or creative writing pieces like short stories or poems are not appropriate in this case. But, if you have a paper based on observation, like a lab report or a case study, you can potentially use it in your portfolio. You should just email your candidate paper to us at writing.proficiency@umb.edu, and we will take a look and very likely give you permission to utilize it. And in any case, if you're feeling like you're not sure if you have the correct type of papers or the correct amount of papers, you should just email us. We are aware that not everyone either saves their papers or takes the same amount of writing classes. So because the portfolio is currently the main option for the WPE, we'll help you as much as we can to make sure that you can submit a portfolio. Okay, your portfolio is due on March 18th by 11:59 p.m. By March 16th, we will send you submission instructions, and those instructions will be sent via email. Submissions will be uploaded via Blackboard. So on March 16th, we will enroll you in a Blackboard course, which is CAS 015. From March 16th through the 18th, you will have the chance to upload your portfolio to Blackboard. We will grade portfolios from March 22nd to March 25th, and then we'll send results after 5 o'clock on Friday, March 25. If you receive a pass result, that means that you passed the WPE and you're done. Congratulations. If you receive a retake, it does mean, unfortunately, that the graders did not find that your submission was proficient. If you do receive a retake, we encourage you to make sure to sign up for retake counseling, which will take place from March 28th through the 31st. During retake counseling, you will meet with a faculty member via Zoom to go over your result, and you'll review the grader's comments on your portfolio. And then, through that conversation, you will talk about the appeal process, if that's something that you want to do, and those will be due on April 4th, and we'll grade them and send you results by April 6th. If you don't appeal or your appeal is not accepted, you will need to attempt the WPE again, and the next WPE will be in June, with registration opening for that on May 2nd. We are now moving on to the advice portion of the presentation, and these are just a few tips to keep in mind as you start working on your essay. So the first thing that we want to point out is that the most important component of a WPE essay is your own thinking. If you don't express your own ideas or give logical support for your own ideas, you will likely not pass the WPE. We do want to see what you think. Here are a couple do's and don'ts. So just keep these in mind as you're working on your essay, as you're drafting, as you're rereading. The first is, don't write a report, do write an essay. We will go over this in more detail in a bit. do make sure to answer the question. Don't summarize unless it's for a good reason that relates to your argument. And also do give credit to the authors in the reading set when you use their ideas to support your argument. So the main difference between a report and an essay is that a report may have a lot of summary and is meant to inform the audience about something. In contrast, an essay has a small amount of summary, and in an essay, the writer's goal is to persuade the audience that their argument is correct or important. So in your essay, you're the writer, you're the one trying to persuade the audience that your argument is correct or important. In an essay, you will take a position and present an argument that is supported by information and logic. As mentioned earlier, your own thinking is essential. The graders want to know what you think. So again, don't write a report for the WPE and do write an essay for the WPE. So the other piece of advice is do answer the question directly and unmistakably first. This can be done ideally at the end of your first paragraph. And your position or thesis statement is important because it is the heart of your essay. It is really you telling the reader what your answer to the question is and what your essay will focus on. You can write a possible answer to the question by employing phrases from the question to create your position. For instance, the prompt asks, considering the ways that we humans experience time, what is the relevance and importance of our ability to synchronize, integrate, and reflect upon the moments of our lives? So a possible answer that kind of recycles phrases from the question might look like, our ability to synchronize, integrate, and reflect upon the moments of our lives is relevant to something that you would write in there, and important because, and then you would give the reasons. As you're working on answering the question, you can also think about the question and what the words in the question mean. So the first thing you can do is consider what the question is asking. The first two important terms in the question are relevant and important. While they may seem similar, they're slightly different. For example, relevant is asking you to look at ways something relates to other components in a significant way, and important refers to the value or profound effect of something. The question also introduces important key terms from the reading set like synchronize, integrate, and reflect. And you can find definitions and examples of what these terms mean or what they look like in the reading set itself. And we have some page numbers here for you to give you like a good starting point. Once you have a grasp on the specific terms inside the question, we recommend that you think about the actual components of the question. So this is a multi-part question. Relevance and importance are two different things. So first think about what is the relevance of our ability to synchronize, integrate, and reflect, and then what is the importance of these three abilities that we have. You need to take both parts of the question into consideration as you're thinking about how to answer, but above else, show the graders what you think. There's no perfect answer to this. This is really, every student will have a slightly different answer because you all think differently and will have different focus in your essays. You might be tempted to summarize the reading set in great detail, but keep in mind that the graders are already going to be familiar with the reading set. They will read the reading set before starting grading. So you don't have to explain every little thing that the reading set authors said, right? carefully selecting the information that is more relevant to your argument. And here's an example of a paragraph that utilizes some summary while trying to expand on an argument. So the paragraph starts with, our ability to reflect upon the past is relevant to our ability to make sense of our experience so that we can learn from them and apply those lessons to the future. So that sentence is what you might call a topic sentence. They're telling the reader, this is what my paragraph is going to focus on, which is the relevance of our ability to reflect upon the past. And they also say why that ability is relevant. They continue with, this ability is enacted neurologically by the brain, creating a perception, which is a representation of information that cognitive systems can work with later. And that is a partial quote from Eagleman on page 6. Eagleman points out that our brain synchronizes and binds through temporal binding and feature binding, components of information that arrive to the brain at different times and by different pathways. For example, when Eagleman describes their experiment where they dropped participants in a free fall and asked participants to recreate their fall on a stopwatch, he found that their duration estimates of their own fall were a third greater on average than the recreations of the fall of others. So these couple sentences, the writer does some summary of what Eagleman's argument might be, and then gives a concrete example of Eagleman's experiments with the free fall, and includes a direct quote that explains Eagleman's finding. This shows that even though they could recognize that the fall of others was relatively short, when participants were reflecting on their own fall, their perception was that the fall was much longer than they actually experienced. Therefore, their perceptions are a subjective, after-the-fact understanding of what has happened. So this bolded, these two bolded sentences, here the writer is inserting their own critical thinking by telling the reader, okay, all of these little things that I've mentioned from Eagleman, what do they prove about what I said about the relevance of reflection? Then they continue by writing, therefore, their perceptions are a subjective after-the-fact understanding of what has happened. We experience that after-the-fact understanding as a narrative self. So here's a term that Whitman brings to our attention, which is similar to Eagleman, since both illustrate the ways in which our reflections on time change the perceived reality of our experiences. So here they are connecting that idea from Whitman to Eagleman's ideas as well. And from a cultural perspective, Hoffman emphasizes the importance of reflection to allow us to create a sense of historical time. This is a term from Hoffman, which takes this important concept of reflection and applies it to society at large, showing that if we do not collectively reflect on current and past events, we are not able to learn from them. So here, the writer is really, they've talked about all three articles together, and here they're explaining yet another reason why this ability to reflect is relevant to how we make sense of time. And they finish by writing, these three perspectives emphasize that the ability to reflect is an essential component in a complex cognitive process by which we make sense of and learn from experience. So another piece of advice is that you do need to give credit. You always need to give credit. So this is really important because the graders need to differentiate between your ideas and those from the authors in the reading set. So what this means is that you should be careful and make sure to cite when you use someone else's ideas. When you use summary, you briefly spell out the main points of something. So here, you know, this writer is making it clear that the summary is an idea from Eagleman. And when you paraphrase something, you reword someone else's statement, and you use about the same number of words. And for paraphrases, you should use a signal phrase and a citation. So signal phrase here would be explains. Eagleman explains. So you're giving credit to Eagleman again, and this is something he is explaining. And then at the end of the paraphrase, you give the page number where that idea comes from. And a direct quotation, that's probably the easiest one to do. A direct quotation is taken directly from the text. You don't really change it. And a direct quotation needs quotation marks and signal phrases in a citation. So only half of the sentence is the direct quotation, so that's why the first part of the sentence does not have the quotation marks. The quotation marks are around the actual words that the student is taking from Eagleman and giving Eagleman credit by name and also giving the page number as well. So you'll notice these examples are in MLA format. You are not required to do MLA format. You can do APA format or any other format that is easy for you, but just make sure no matter what, if you're using someone else's ideas, you should make it clear that you are using that person's ideas and that you did not create, for instance, the idea of synchronization or temporal and feature binding. In the next couple of slides, we're going to take a quick look at the grid notes, and these are optional to use, but they can be very useful because they can help you make an index of important ideas and key terms in the reading set, and they can also help you collect information or collect quotes that you can use in your essay later on. So the grid notes are on our website currently at this link, or you can just go to umb.edu/WPE, which is the shorter link that we talked about at the beginning of the slideshow. And you know, the grid notes can help you make sure that your essay is a conversation between your ideas and those of the authors in the reading set. And you can access them as PDF or as docx formats, so whatever is easier for you. PDF, you know, you can print those out and fill them out by hand. Doc format, you might want to use that if you are filling out the grid notes on your computer. And here's just an example of what the grid notes can look like. And they can help you create an index of important ideas. And you can see that the student here has filled out the page numbers where they think that these ideas are being discussed by each author. It can be useful to keep an index because it might make it easier for you to see connections or differences between the readings, and it can also help you select quotes that you can include in your essay, as I mentioned earlier. And here is an example of using the grid notes to keep track of important quotes. This is where downloading the doc version of the grid notes might be most useful. And you can use the grid notes to try to synthesize the sources. This means that instead of using the sources separately within your essay, you can use them together to support your argument, like even within a paragraph, like in the paragraph that we looked at a couple of slides ago, where the student was clearly focused on, you know, a main point and was engaging with all three of the articles to discuss their answer. So finally, we do have some resources available to guide you as you're working on your essay. So tutoring, which is a one-on-one session with a WPE tutor. We do offer those remotely or in person. Tutoring is ending soon. It's through March 13th. There is limited availability for in-person and a little more availability for remote appointments. And we have some short URLs here. We also send the links to sign up for tutoring pretty regularly. We send like weekly messages, just kind of reminding everyone that's registered about what's going on. So be on the lookout for those, or just email us if you're having trouble accessing the tutoring links. There will be last minute help via Zoom on March 14th and 15th. The times will be announced soon. And this will be, a place for you to come to a Zoom room. You can ask questions in the main room, or if you want to talk one-on-one with a tutor, you can go to a breakout room and, show them a draft, show them like the scraps that you've been working with, the notes that you have, and, really ask anything that you might need help with. The links will be sent in our weekly mailing on March 11th, so that's coming up. And finally, we do have draft reviews. Those will be on March 16th and 17th, and those will be by appointment only, but this is not a face-to-face or Zoom face-to-Zoom face appointment. What this means is when you sign up for a draft review, you are reserving a staff member's time. You will not actually be meeting with the staff member. Instead, you'll need to send us your essay before the appointment time, and then your tutor will email you feedback as soon as possible. And just like with the last minute help, the link to sign up for a draft review will be sent via email in our weekly update on March 11th. This concludes part 1 of the WPE workshop. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact us at our email address, writing.proficiency@umb.edu, and we will answer you as soon as we can. Part 2 of the workshop will be available soon, and it will go over the reading set in more detail and how to engage with and utilize the reading set in your essay. So be on the lookout for that as well. And thank you for your time, and good luck with your essay writing.